Good evening, and welcome to the Readers Theater Alliance performance of The American Experiment. We're a diverse group of people from Drexel University and beyond who believe in the value of fighting prejudice and injustice through drama. Now, we're in Independence Hall, the place, the building where it all began. Our founders gave us a vision and a framework, and Lincoln gave us a second chance.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice.
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
And if our founding mothers and fathers could speak today, I wonder what they would say about the state of their American experiment.
A name, a map, or a flag I see, a certain word, democracy. That is America to me. The children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races and religion. That's America to me.
I know what America is to me. I can only imagine what America was to Abigail Adams.
Another July 4th. I still remember the first one. The times were so uncertain, sometimes even terrifying. But the belief that we created a country that would provide its people with liberty, freedom, and equality made all the sacrifices worthwhile. In 1776, such a country like this was unthinkable. John and the other 55 founding fathers made it happen. I've celebrated this country with pride for over 243 years, even during the years when there was so much to question, but always with the feeling that in America, the potential to do better, to do something momentous was possible. Well, it's almost time. John, where are you? John Adams. It's time to attend another important 4th of July Founders Reunion. Are you ready?
Can't I have some peace? Are they still working on Independence Mall?
You aren't answering my question.
I'm not interested. The topics we discussed at our last reunion were inconsequential. In any case, who cares what we think? Our time has passed.
They never stopped you before from sharing your opinion.
Acting as though our brilliant experiment is still working would kill me, if that were even possible. We can't pretend everything down there is all right.
Oh, John, it was the same back in 1776. The delegates were talking about fishing rights, and you were thinking about revolution.
Well, doing nothing wasn't an option. I didn't get all I wanted, but I got the birth of our nation. Still, it bothers me that slavery persisted and the result was a civil war.
I know, dear. I remember it very well. If you, Ben, and Thomas hadn't given in on slavery, the Southern colonists never would have signed the Declaration of Independence, and we'd probably still be part of the British Empire.
Next time you see Mary Todd Lincoln, tell her to stop blaming me for not being a better negotiator and causing a civil war.
John, calm yourself. Getting angry won't help.
Yeah, it never did. Everyone hated me for my temper.
Hate is too harsh a word. Most people know without John Adams' persistence, there might never have been a United States of America.
Do you truly believe they care today? After losing over 30,000 patriots in a war with England, many Americans can't seem to get enough of the British royal family. What is going on in America today?
John, is that your melodious voice I hear? You sound like a raging bull.
Ben, I'm so glad you stopped by. Are you going to the July 4th reunion?
I never miss a reunion, especially if lovely ladies like you are there.
Still a flirt. I dare say the lovely ladies of today would as the expression goes, call you out on some of your behavior with the ladies.
Oh, that could be fun. Surely you and John will be there.
You speak about me as though I'm not here.
Don't be so sensitive, John. Are you going or aren't you going?
What for? I'm consumed with disgust. Just when things were moving again in the right direction, the flaws of our democracy reared their ugly head again. In 2008, when the first African American was elected president, we had a genuine reason to celebrate.
And in 2016, we are so certain we would have another reason to celebrate, a woman president. But it didn't happen. We've waited for so long. Since the beginning, we women have been treated as though the most we are capable of is to sew a flag.
I was disappointed too, Abby. Now, even more so. The leadership in the White House today is a nightmare. It's no wonder George Washington hasn't been to a recent July 4th celebration. He was a leader, a proud man, but he understood the limits of his position in a democracy. And he understood the need to inspire people and bring them together.
John, I hear you. I understand. Where's Jefferson? I know he's concerned too. Jefferson!
What do you want with Jefferson? It's a wonder we ever forgave each other for the way we treated each other. How ironic that we both died on July 4th, 1826, 50 years to the day we declared independence.
Well, perhaps Jefferson can help us understand why the country is going backwards. I think we need Lincoln too.
Have you been drinking too many pints of ale? Why would it matter to us? We can't do anything.
I can't believe that you, John Adams, don't see the need to understand the current situation. Jefferson, glad you're here. It's about time.
I know tonight is important, but what's the emergency? Martha and I were just getting ready for the July 4th reunion.
Good to see you both.
Adams has given up on our experiment.
Not John. I know him. He never gives up, even when he is wrong.
And who are you to say I was ever wrong?
Gentlemen, this doesn't help. Are you giving up, John?
If we were serious, we need to hear from those who see the flaws and can help explain the causes and conflicts that are paralyzing our government today.
I'm willing. I already know how tarnished my reputation has become. I promised to free all of my slaves, but I didn't. And as everybody knows today, I fathered children with one of my slaves.
Mom, I'm not excusing what you did. You say and did things I know you are now ashamed of. But it's also true you wrote a brilliant document that has inspired people around the world.
Martha, I'm grateful for your understanding, but I should have done better after you died. Well, I couldn't stand the loneliness.
Yes, dear.
All right, enough of our past sins. You have my attention. We need a diverse group of people who will tell us their truth. And from there, we will figure out, if we can, how to revive this democracy.
And that's my John. And this time, we women will not be silenced. This has to be a joint effort.
Absolutely. Let's ask Molly Pitcher to join us. Surely she deserves an opportunity to render an opinion. Her bravery during the war when her husband was shot was truly courageous. I understand there's a rest stop on New Jersey Road in her honor.
Ladies, invite anybody you think will have relevant input.
I'll ask Mr. Paul Revere to invite deaf people that represent leaders and average Americans, especially of the current times.
Fine. Let's have a town meeting at midnight tonight. Somebody contact Lincoln.
It seems somebody already did. Mr. Lincoln, it's an honor to meet you again, sir.
The honor is mine, Mr. Jefferson. Actually, I was on my way to see all of you because I'm very concerned about the ever-increasing divisions in our country.
Join the club, Mr. Lincoln. And I see you didn't bring your wife, Mary.
She's already depressed. I try to spare her when I can. Considering the sacrifices so many good people, it's troubling to see that the country is so deeply divided. I've said it before, and I will say it again. A house divided against itself cannot stand.
How true. We can use your wisdom. It seems we all agree that our democracy that we fought to create, and you, Abe, fought to preserve, is in jeopardy.
It is baffling that the very existence of the United States is now on trial.
Well, it is. Everybody, look out the window and look at those signs.
I'm looking. I didn't realize how angry people are today. There are so many signs.
The sign that intrigues me says, guns kill people. Change the Second Amendment.
This is my favorite. Super, fragile, racist, sexist, not my POTUS. America, what would our founding fathers say about America today?
Excellent question. What do we say?
We've struggled through unbearably difficult times before. Shed blood, brother against brother. Nothing could be worse for a country than a civil war. 750,000 Americans were killed by our own hands. Civil unrest that could lead to war is never the answer.
What is the answer? Do you understand what those signs are telling us?
I can't say I comprehend what's behind many of them, but the sign about reparations is very clear. It took me far too long to apply the pressure needed to eradicate slavery. It wasn't until 3 years into the Civil War that I used the office of the presidency to free the slaves. And it took 2 more years until Congress passed the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery and involuntary servitude.
It's been a long time since the end of slavery. Time for acceptance and restitution.
One might think so. We Northerners won the Civil War on the battlefield, but not in the hearts of all Americans. There is still much resentment among the people in many states that we fought. Perhaps if I had lived, I could have helped bring together our divided house in a more humane and healing way. It is the job of the president to bring the people together. Unfortunately, people of color are still victims of this resentment. Reparations is one way to compensate for irreparable harm that's been done.
What harm are you talking about? Hello, everybody.
Molly Pitcher, I'm so glad you could make it.
I'm deeply disturbed too. The people may be so angry at us that they may change the name of the rest stop in New Jersey.
I'm sure that won't happen. You deserve to be remembered for your courage. The question is, what needs to be done to save America today?
We can't answer that until we understand the source of the problems.
Over the years, there have always been divisions. The creation of America was a huge experiment. So many questions. What was right? What would work? Who was best to lead and how to lead? One would think after years of experimenting with large government and small government, high taxes and low taxes, isolation and leadership of the world, the people would know better how to solve the problems of the day.
If you recall, Mr. Adams, a major problem is the people have different versions of what America should be. So they go back to the Constitution to try to conjure up what we had in mind. I invited Madison to join us. He should be here very soon.
We had in mind? Let's not forget it took too many years for we the people to include women, Indians, and our African brothers and sisters.
Well, even though women weren't officially included, you have to agree that it was clear nobody wanted a dictator or a king or one anointed person or a few to control the rest of us. Ultimately, we wanted people to have the power to help determine our own fate. But we did wonder if it made sense to invest so much power in the people when most of them had inadequate education and knowledge and experience to govern.
Madison understood that the people could be, as he said, as tyrannical as a monarch. Thus, he believed it was necessary to guard one part of the society against the oppression of the other. and there had to be respect for individual rights. Fortunately, Madison should be here any minute.
Did I hear my name? So, John Adams, you're at it again.
Good to see you too, James Madison.
Dolly, I'm grateful you could join us. We could use your talent for diplomacy.
Thank you, Abigail. We are both glad to be here.
What can we do for you?
It's not me, it's the people. What do you say when you hear the people say, we must interpret the Constitution exactly as it is written?
I say understand that the Constitution was written in such a general way that it could remain relevant throughout the years. We couldn't possibly predict the future, especially the inventions that have followed. Thus, we made it amendable. We also knew that the people were afraid of a strong central government. So we wrote the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments that protect the rights of the people.
I felt most fortunate that we were able to amend the parts pertaining to slavery.
I never wanted slavery to be approved in the original document. How grateful I am that it's no longer sanctioned by the Constitution.
You certainly didn't make your feelings known about slavery when you were working on the Constitution.
Now, John, you know at the time it was a controversial subject. Nevertheless, we have a lot to atone for.
Apparently, there are additional problems that the Constitution hasn't handled very well. I propose that we get on with this review.
I suggest we start with the signs that people are carrying outside. Our esteemed guests can help us understand their meaning and the background and the different perspectives. Are we agreed?
Yeah.
Yes,
Abigail, I didn't hear you.
I'm thinking about many of those signs, and it strikes me that women are not waiting for their menfolk to take charge. Women are actively protesting. They are worrying about the future of their children, and I understand their deep concern. In fact, I think it wouldn't hurt to have a woman in charge of this conference. Dolly Madison, you helped serve 2 administrations as hostess in the White House and demonstrated such bravery during the War of 1812. Would you host this event?
Thank you, Abigail. I'll be glad to help in any way I can. But I think you are the most suited for this role. From the very beginning, you advocated that women be included in We the People. You saw an equal role for women in government, women being educated like the men, and women having property rights. You were a revolutionary as much as your husband. It is time that strong women like you assume leadership positions.
Thank you, Dolly. I'm honored.
Well, it's just about midnight. Gathering from the turnout I see, Paul Revere did it again.
Let's begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for coming here tonight. It isn't often that we feel the need to awaken the dead, so to speak. You have earned your time of rest. We all have. But Abigail, would you like to continue?
Why, thank you, Ben. All of us here today are quite alarmed by the signs. The divisions in the country are enormous. We hope you can help us understand the causes of the discontent that are challenging our country.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but somebody who is dressed like Paul Revere invited both of us to join your July 4th reunion.
Are we in the right place? Do we have to wear a costume too?
Please, excuse me for a minute. John, who are these people? They have signs and they don't look dead.
Abigail, perhaps Paul Revere was in such a rush, he didn't realize who he was inviting.
Are you part of a tourist attraction? Is that why you're wearing costumes?
I bet I know. You're part of a performance in honor of July 4th.
What a novel idea. Well, welcome to our July 4th reunion performance. And you can play today's citizen.
This should be quite an experience. I'm glad I was invited. I guess you're supposed to be Benjamin Franklin.
Very true. And you are?
I'm Jack Weber, an engineer living in Philadelphia.
I'm Jane Chen Fisher. I also live and work in Philly. And if my memory is correct, based on the movie, you must be Abigail and John Adams.
My dear, you are absolutely right.
I'm Molly Pitcher.
And I'm Dolly Madison, wife of President James Madison, who is sitting over there.
Very authentic, all of you. I love your costumes.
So, you should know, we are members of the incarnation of the Founding Fathers and Mothers Association, and we are not happy with what's going on in our country.
That's right. We are trying to better understand the issues that appear to be the cause of divisions in the country.
We are using signs like the ones you are carrying as our topics of discussion.
Really? Is this some kind of interactive theater?
My dear Jane, you may call it what you like.
This is definitely going to be an unusual night.
We are very glad you are here.
Rosa Parks is ready to tell us her position on reparations.
Thank you. Since you're holding the sign that disapproves of reparation, Mr. Weber, I'm also very glad that you are here. I like to tell you and others why reparation is the only way to make amends for slavery, compensation for the centuries of subhuman treatment. Ours is a story of horrific mistreatment. The story of slavery in the United States. We were brought from Africa as slaves to do the white man's work, care for their crops, help make them rich people. This is an unvarnished truth. I am Rosa Parks, civil rights activist, sometimes called the mother of freedom, of the freedom movement. Do you know what comes from 250 years of slavery? 100 years of Jim Crow laws, mandated racial segregation in all public facilities, 60 years of separate but equal facilities, which were never equal, and 35 years of racist housing policies that denied Black people opportunities to live in any community of choice. These realities have created years of frustration and little hope for change, little hope for equality we're supposedly promised in your Constitution. How do parents feed their children, give them the things that they see their white counterparts enjoying? Yes, there are crimes, but understand how and why crimes of the magnitude that you see on the news get started. Often, it has been desperation, inadequate education, lack of job opportunities, and police brutality, every kind of racism you can think of. And who profits from the incarceration of Black men? Corporate America. The owners of the private prisons who have no incentive to educate and reform their prisoners. This has to change.
If I may respond, Ms. Parks, you have a right to be angry. But I wasn't around when Black people were slaves. Why should my hard-earned tax money be used to make up for the terrible things done in the past?
How did I know you were going to say that? Well, let's try looking at it this way. As Americans, you have benefited from our labor. And whether you know it or not, the entire cotton industry, America's first big business, revolved around slavery. An entire economic empire was built on the backs of the enslaved.
Yes, but again, it was the past.
And I bet you feel pride in the good things America has done in the past, such as help win the World War II.
Well, of course I do.
Well, did you fight in the war? Did you do anything to earn the pride you felt when the United States helped win the war? Or why should you feel pride for the esteem that was given your country as a world leader and not feel any sense of responsibility when America committed crimes against humanity?
I never thought about it this way.
We all need to help our country when it has problems. That's what it means to be a citizen of democracy. We are all in it together, for better or worse. When we solve the American problem, we all benefit. If more of my African brothers and sisters today were provided with the money, support, and opportunities they need to get quality education and live in a safe neighborhood, they would have a better chance of getting better earning jobs. It's about time that Black Lives Matter.
Well, that certainly makes sense to me.
And to me and my people, the Cherokee Nation. I know because I am Wilma Mankiller, the first woman elected deputy chief of the Cherokee Nation in 1982. We too are still feeling the effects of discrimination. Consider us the first group to be marginalized and mistreated. Do you remember the disastrous forced relocation of my people from our ancestors' homelands in the southeastern United States to designated territory west of the Mississippi River? We suffer from exposure, disease, and starvation. Our journey was truly a trail of tears. I guess when you wrote "We the People," you never had us, the original residents of these lands, in mind. Today we still have persistent problems: high unemployment, leaked oil onto our sacred lands, and broken promises. When will these needs and interests of the American Indian ever come first?
I am Andrew Carnegie, an industrialist, but I understand your frustration. Nevertheless, it must be clear that we pioneers of this great country understood that to rise, become world leaders, we needed to take over the lands and build on them modern towns and cities that could prosper. We can't stop progress. We don't have the luxury of smelling the flowers, nurturing the ground, when we need to use our resources to build a better future.
What future are you talking about? It shouldn't be an either-or situation. It is possible to prosper and thrive in this world and still protect the land valued and nurtured by the American Indians. I'm Rachel Carson, known as the founder of the environmental movement. My 1962 book, Silent Spring, was initially denounced and ridiculed by chemical companies. When my observations about the harmful effects of pesticides were proven, DDT were banned. You must listen. Today, the warnings of environmentalists must be heeded.
What warnings, Rachel? What don't we know?
Global warming is really happening. Because of the Earth's changing climate, people today are experiencing more heat waves, rising seas, melting glaciers, and warmings of the poles. The future looks grim. There will certainly be a quicker spread of disease, extinctions of certain species of animals, heavy snowfalls, droughts, and fires.
What's the cause and what's the solution?
Well, the answer is complicated, but humans have contributed to the problem with the Industrial Revolution, mining, and deforestation. And one way to reduce the problem is to reduce the use of fossil fuels.
As an inventor, I'm sure there is more to the problem and solution than that.
You are correct, Dr. Franklin. One of the problems is that there are people today who deny there is a problem because a solution could affect their industry, and they are not willing to sacrifice their business for the sake of our planet.
Well, clearly this is a problem that requires research and reflection. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And now
I see you, Jane, are holding a sign that intrigues me. We are a nation of immigrants. Nobody is better than anybody else. Equal treatment for each of us, no exceptions. Is immigration still a problem?
For sure. Under the current administration, a significant portion of the population has come to fear the foreigner. Openly demonizing the newcomer, especially Muslims and Mexicans, has become more acceptable. It seems the Statue of Liberty has lost its relevance. I love the poem that Emma Lazarus wrote. Oh, from your costume, I'm guessing you are Emma Lazarus.
Yes, I'm the person who wrote the poem in 1833 that appeared on the Statue of Liberty, a beacon of hope to all immigrants. If you recall, it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your hustled masses yearning to break free." Tandy, the Hamlet, told to me, "Does America no longer live its lamb and welcome the refugee in need of a new home?"
The Statue of Liberty and your poem meant a great deal to me and my family. I'm Arthur Goldberg. I was a lawyer who served as an Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court and a U.S. Representative to the United Nations. My father came from Poland and my mother came from Ukraine. It is true that everybody here today had an ancestor who came from another country. Regrettably, I also hear that today immigrants are being treated as though they have no place in America.
Perhaps it has always been this way. I am Liu Hang. I was a Chinese-born American industrialist, a pioneer in the canning industry. I was very fortunate, but when my father came to the United States, he experienced frustration, disappointment, and loneliness, and he returned to China. Many of our history books don't always tell the truth, and I think the truth is very important.
And what truth are you referring to?
Well, the truth is that the Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, Indian, Latin American, Irish, Italian, and every other new group who came to our shore was greeted with suspicion and oftentimes rejection and physical harm. Nobody made it easy to assimilate. I have personally seen an Asian American child pushed off her bike by a bystander, an Indian restaurant owner harassed as his store was vandalized, and a grocery store owner sped on and accused of being responsible for an epidemic. And still those of us who have been determined to make a better life for ourselves and our families worked hard, took advantage of opportunities that were available, and created a foundation for others like me to come here.
I agree, Mr. Hing. The process hasn't been easy. The Catholic, the Muslim, and the Jew have also experienced vandalism, rejection, and assaults. But we've persisted too. And because we brought our different strengths and ideas, we are a stronger, innovative, and exciting nation. This, I believe, is what makes us unique. Other countries have looked to us as a model of what the world should be, a place where people with varying needs and interests can get along and prosper together.
Wouldn't you agree that we had been getting better at accepting, even welcoming, people from different countries who came here for different reasons? I am Mario Como. My family came from Italy to New York, where I grew up and served as a governor for 3 terms. Even though I was a top student in college and law school, ethnic prejudice led to my rejection by more than 50 law firms. But we have made progress. Today, we have Hispanic, African American, Jew, and Italian among the 9 United States Supreme Court judges.
Does the immigration problem have anything to do with the sign about babies? Mr. Chavez, could you please tell us what this means? Don't separate babies from their parents. Save the children. Families belong together. Whose babies are being separated from their parents? Where is this taking place?
I will be glad to. For those of you who don't know, I'm Cesar Chavez, a Mexican American. I was a union leader and labor organizer. Today, at the border between Mexico and the United States, there are Mexican and Central Americans who have walked hundreds of miles to escape starvation or violent death, seeking asylum. And yet, here in America, they have been treated like criminals. Children have been literally separated from their parents. It's outrageous.
Why aren't the American people opposed to such inhumane treatment?
We are, but many people ignore this horrific treatment because they fear the newcomer, crime, and a changing America that will leave them behind. The most obvious source of anger is the belief that the foreigner is unfairly taking their jobs. They hope this treatment will discourage people from coming to America, but it's wrong.
Yes, it's wrong, but there has to be a limit to the number of poor people we can take in. Look what's happening in Europe. Everywhere, immigrants are putting a strain on the very fabric of the countries they're coming to.
That's exactly why there needs to be an immigration policy that is fair to the people who came to the United States legally. It also makes sense to help the countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, where these people come from, so that they won't be desperate enough to risk everything to come to America.
Sounds like a good idea, but in the meantime, these illegals expect to be treated the same way as citizens who pay taxes, and to make matters worse, they're taking our jobs.
Truth is that most current citizens don't want those jobs these immigrants are willing to take.
I don't believe that. Where did you hear this?
It's true.
What makes you an authority on the truth?
I'm not, but I read newspapers that have a record for integrity. Only the truth will help me understand the problems we are facing and make the right decisions when I vote.
Everybody is interested in the truth.
Really? Then why do people watch programs that only give them one point of view? Why do they read tabloids that are known for lying?
What are you talking about?
I'm sure you've heard the line that's been circulated that a certain political party wants to open the borders to anybody who wants to come here and work here.
It's true.
Really? Where did you read or hear this? Who has suggested that all the borders of the United States be completely open to anybody who wants to come here? It has never been that way, and nobody is advocating that. These are scare tactics. Reasonable Americans want sensible laws that the president should encourage Congress to create.
This sounds familiar. Misinformation. No wonder nothing is getting done in Washington.
Excuse me, but I think we are digressing. Please stay on the topic that we're discussing.
Actually, an important topic is the causes of disagreement. One of the reasons why we can't seem to resolve the immigration problem, or any other, is because of the misinformation that is purposely circulated. It's impossible to find a solution to a problem when you're working with people who have no interest in the truth. I am a victim of misinformation.
I'm sorry to say that today the truth is a very subjective entity. There are people who have different opinions about climate change, even when there is concrete evidence of its existence.
Nonsense. I'm Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a four-term United States senator, sociologist, and diplomat. I said many times, everyone is entitled to his own opinion, but not to his own facts. Seeking the truth and highlighting the truth should always be a goal of a democracy. When lawmakers have a problem with the truth, it becomes essential that the free press alert the public to the lies that can destroy a democracy.
The history of World War II is a perfect example of the catastrophic effect of lies. Adolf Hitler used lies and reinforced lies to try to extinguish an entire religion and other people who didn't fit in his mold. He was so successful that the average person couldn't seem to distinguish truth from fiction.
Today it's even easier to spread lies. Social media.
Social media? Does that have something to do with the new kind of phones and this thing called Twitter?
Yes. And social media played a critical role in the last presidential election and could affect the next one.
Therefore, it's imperative that the press work overtime to get the facts, the truth to the people. It shouldn't even matter what party you belong to.
Lies and hurtful comments on social media are also tearing our nation apart. Like you, Mr. Hing, I have Asian blood. As a result, I've often heard people say, "Go home," as if America weren't my home. There have been times recently when I was concerned about walking in the street in my own neighborhood. It is inconceivable that this is happening.
I'm deeply sorry to hear this. It's clearly not just the Constitution that needs review.
I totally agree. Now, can somebody tell us about the sign that says separation of church and state? Religion should have nothing to do with our laws. I thought we dealt with freedom of religion in our Bill of Rights.
I'm glad you asked. I'm Arthur Miller, and I wrote The Crucible, a play about people who use religion to satisfy their own agenda.
Religion is a topic that is dear to my heart. I am William Bradford. I'm one of the first to come to America in search of religious freedom. As you all must know, I came here on the Mayflower. Remember the Puritans, the people who are celebrated, especially on Thanksgiving. We rejected worshiping the King of England and the Anglican Church of England. To avoid persecution, we came to North America and founded the Massachusetts Bay Colony and the city of Boston.
We remember you, Mr. Bradford. You and your fellow Puritans came seeking freedom, but you didn't understand the idea of tolerance. You came to America in search of religious freedom, but only for yourselves. You believed that only yours was a true religion, and everyone else should be forced to worship as you did.
Now just a minute. I don't think you understand the situation at the time. People do terrible things if they don't fear God, if they don't have guidance from the Lord.
I do understand, but which Lord are you talking about? What kind of guidance are you thinking of? Did God anoint your religion as the only one that should be accepted? Why were your people so intolerant of religious dissent? We are very fortunate that the founding fathers understood the tendency of people with power to assert their will to the detriment of the people who opposed them. With the help of James Madison, freedom of religion and separation of church and state became part of the First Amendment to the Constitution.
Yes, I quite agree with Arthur Miller. I am Eleanor Roosevelt, a champion of human rights and the wife of President Franklin Roosevelt. It is not religion that is a problem. It is what people do in the name of a religion. Religion can be a tremendous force for good, for healing, for comfort, for help, and for discipline. Too often we have seen people use religion to destroy people, sustain their positions of power, and subjugate others. Religion has been used to justify killing Jews, Catholics, Protestants, Sunnis, Shiites, and gay people. And religion has ever been used to justify slavery for hundreds of years.
I can personally attest to the harm done to people because of religious beliefs. I am Harvey Milk, the first openly gay official in the history of California. I can tell you firsthand that religion has been used as a basis for creating laws that prevent people like me from having the right to choose my partner, the right to the pursuit of happiness. God and the Son of God were non-judgmental, inclusive, and yet too many religious people have chosen to condemn me for being true to my own human nature as God created me.
It's another tragedy of discrimination that most people have to come to realize is immoral and illegal. I am Doris Day. During my years in Hollywood, I had the pleasure of working with many men, beautiful, creative, and loving people who had to hide their sexuality and live double lives. The fear of getting caught with the same-sex partner was excruciating. They knew that if they were found out, it would not only be the end of their career, but perhaps the end of their freedom and even their lives. It makes me so mad when I think of all the men and women who died of AIDS, a disease that wasn't taken seriously because it only seemed to affect gay people. What was their crime that they should be treated as misfits, people undeserving of respect and support?
Homosexuality is a sin according to God, according to the Bible.
Sir, I am talking about the United States of America. The Bible is not the law of our country. The Constitution is the Bible of this country. I was born a Catholic. It was my choice to go to church or not.
In America, we are not obliged to follow the laws of the Bible, only the laws of the United States Constitution. There is nothing in the Constitution about God or religion. If your religion provides you with comfort and support, that is fine, as long as you don't use your religion to create laws that undermine my pursuit of happiness.
Please tell this to the members of the party in the White House and the people who are still using the Bible to marginalize different groups of people.
Yes, tell them to stay out of my bedroom. What right do other people have to tell me who I can have sex with and when I should have a baby? I didn't get pregnant on purpose. In fact, I was raped. I didn't want to have this baby. I couldn't afford to have another child. I needed to work to feed the child I already had. I couldn't afford a sitter, the clothes, or the education. What right did anybody have to force me to have this baby and endure all the problems and dangers associated with a pregnancy? Because it was illegal, I died getting an abortion. I didn't have the benefit of a qualified doctor in a sanitary environment. Mine is just one story that represents thousands of other women.
I'm here because I tried to help people like you, Audrey. I'm George Richard Taylor, a medical director of Kansas Women's Healthcare Services, one of the only 3 clinics nationwide that provide late-term abortions. Religion has been used as justification to kill people like me who only want to help women make decisions about their own bodies and their lives. After hearing about a woman who had died from an illegal abortion, I continued my father's practice. I paid the ultimate penalty death.
When you destroy a fetus, you are destroying a life. Nobody has the right to kill an innocent life. Life begins at fertilization.
Did you know, according to Jewish law, life begins at birth? A fetus is regarded as part of its mother throughout the pregnancy, dependent fully on her for its life. For Jewish people, an abortion does not destroy a human life.
Clearly, there are different positions on this. But since we have a separation of church and state in our country, this is not a matter for members of our government. This is a private matter. People of a certain religion can choose to do what is best for them, what their conscience and their religion dictates. At one time, I was opposed to abortions, but I still believe that nobody had the right in America to create laws that interfered with this woman's right to make decisions regarding her body.
You certainly have my vote. There's another topic that concerns me. Can we now talk about the sign that says, "Guns kill people"? Change the Second Amendment.
It's obvious that guns kill people. What's wrong with the Second Amendment? Why shouldn't people be allowed to save themselves?
Since you wrote the Second Amendment, individuals can now purchase assault weapons. Weapons meant for the army, what you call the well-regulated militia. When citizens use them, they kill many people in a short space of time. I'm Aaron Fies. I was a high school football coach in Florida when a maniac with a gun randomly started shooting.
Can you imagine what it was like to be in a room and you see your students who you know like your own children running for cover, many not making it? I'm here to talk about what happens when the wrong people can purchase guns.
Aren't there laws that limit the use of these weapons?
Not the kind we need. Lobbies, interest groups, influence our lawmakers with their infusion of money into their political campaigns. The NRA, National Rifle Association, the most powerful one of all, has made it impossible to get laws passed. My life and the lives of many students could have been saved if we had new laws. You may find it hard to believe, but we have had over 223 mass shootings of innocent people, many children from 2009 to 2019.
Oh, who could have foreseen that unlimited gun ownership would become so important in this modern world? We never envisioned such deadly weapons would be available to everyone.
Oh, I'd like the way they changed.
It's ironic that so many of the same people who are so concerned about the killing of a fetus have done nothing to support laws that would prevent fully delivered babies, children, and adults from being killed by guns. Very, very sad.
I'll tell you what else is wrong. You framers of the government entrusted the states with too much power.
What specifically are you talking about? Are you referring to items included in this sign? Same textbooks, same education in New York or New Orleans?
Yes, sir, I am. I thought I heard that John Dewey is here. He can better explain my concern.
I am John Dewey, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak. I was an American philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer. Like all of you esteemed founding fathers, I strongly believed in the importance education plays in the health and survival of a democracy. We're also concerned that the general public would have difficulty making wise decisions, especially with regard to voting, if they weren't taught the difference between fact and fiction, how to solve problems, and how to think critically. Am I correct?
Yes, of course. What's the problem?
How do we guarantee that all students are receiving this type of education?
This was a responsibility we left to the states, where it belongs.
Why do you say that?
The business of education is too large for the national government to control and determine its standards. Each state should decide what is appropriate for the state.
Perhaps this is a decision that should be questioned. Look what's going on across the country today. I would concede that many states consider education a priority, and their textbooks teach the truth about history and science. On the other hand, there are states that refuse to spend enough money on an education that realistically prepares children for their future. Many students graduate from states' high schools unprepared to attend college, acquire a decent job, or vote, or even shop wisely. Many students are also ignorant of historical and scientific facts. They use textbooks tailored to teach history and science based on the viewpoints, sometimes religious viewpoints, of the people in power in the states. The teaching of evolution and climate change, for example, should not be up for debate.
Shouldn't it be the state's right to decide whether creationism, intelligent design, and evolution be taught together?
Absolutely not. Real science should be taught. How can we solve the problems of the future if they're just based on myths and misinformation?
Well, just as we have seen with slavery, there are extreme differences in thinking in different states that ultimately impact on the progressiveness of our nation. Education is too important to be left to the political perspectives of state legislatures.
Perhaps the national government should have more power to regulate the standards of education in all schools across the nation. Children in poor and wealthy communities are equally important, and they all should have access to a quality education.
John Dewey, I couldn't agree with you more. I wish you were around when we were writing the Constitution.
Certain states will never give up their local control over education.
If the people care enough, they will make their voices heard loud enough to reach Washington, D.C.
I see it as near morning. We have covered many subjects that divide the people. Thank you all for sharing your stories and your perspectives.
And all of these critical issues, yes, they demand discussion, debate, and ultimately compromise. Unfortunately, the solutions are not in our hands.
We can all agree with that. But, dear patriots, there is still hope.
we have only to recall the eloquent words of a more current president who seemed to embody the vision of our beloved country.
You must be thinking of President Barack Obama.
Why, yes. Much is wrong today, but his words give me hope. Hope that in the near future, a more enlightened people will vote for a leader who shares the ideals that ignited your quest for independence and my quest for endurance. I see a senator who knew him well.
That's correct, President Lincoln. I'm Senator John McCain. I'm grateful that I could be here among you tonight. When I ran for president, Barack Obama was my political opponent, but I respected him. He is a true American, and he had it right when he said, the leader of America should use the wisdom enriched by the lessons of the past to reinvigorate the reputation of America as a leader in human rights, civil rights, liberty, and freedom. This person should also be a seeker of truth and help the countries of the world live up to their potential and work together to save our planet.
Thank you for reminding us of what a true leader of America would say. From what I heard, you were quite a respected American too, Senator John McCain, a true American hero. I believe there are many Americans today who wish you were alive with them rather than with us.
Thank you, President Madison. Yes, I was proud to fight for a country that welcomes free expression of controversial ideas, among other things. President Obama and I didn't always agree, but we respected each other as Americans. We need to see more of that today.
He also understood that I have what I've always believed. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time.
That's why I was out there with my sign.
Same reason. Nothing else, we seem to agree that something needs to be done.
I hope we can all agree that unless people on all sides of an issue make a genuine effort to seek the truth and listen to each other's concerns, we are betraying the people represented here today.
And we are losing our credibility, our respect as a leader in the global community. In fact, the future of the United States as a democracy is in jeopardy.
I like what I'm hearing. Jane and Jack, I'm glad you came to our reunion.
Oh, how do we get the people to start working together again and make the changes necessary to restore America's reputation as a leader?
There is one way. Perhaps you will see the answer in our July 4th fireworks. Listen, watch, they are just beginning.
Vote wisely. America belongs to all of us, and your life and your country depend on you.
And religions, the air of feeling free, and the right to speak our mind out. That's America to me.